who has won a very prestigious competition designing a spacecraft to go to Mars. So very nice to have you here. Please welcome Emilia. Before we get on to what you did, we just heard from a lot of people there that they were inspired by watching the moon landing. And that seems to have led to a whole generation of people who wanted to do space stuff. Now, I was born after the moon landing. What is it for you? What's your generation's, what's the thing that makes you excited about space? Because there's been someone in the space station the whole time you've been alive. So what's the thing that makes it exciting and new for you?
I think the most exciting part is that it's becoming a really big thrill now. Like, it's the Mars generation.
Right.
So SpaceX, Blue Origin, they're getting a lot of attention when it comes to building rockets, and it's getting a ton of public kind of appearances. But then really NASA, they're becoming more inventions, and it's becoming a huge thing now.
So it feels more real, doesn't it?
Right, because after the moon landings, it was like the space shuttles, but the public were kind of like, oh, space shuttles. It was still super exciting, but it wasn't as exciting as landing on another terrestrial body. But the one thing that inspired me to start was the blood moon when I was in 3rd grade.
Right.
So my dad and I went on the roof of our house, and there we watched it. At first I was like, okay, this is going to be super cool. But then when I watched it become like this blood red, it was extremely extraordinary how because of a different perspective of the sun, moon, and the earth, it becomes a totally different thing than what we see. And that's when I started getting into the universe, the different stars and planets. And then we took next year we took a trip to Cape Canaveral, Kennedy Center, NASA, and that was when the engineering perspective of it came to view, and it's this is what I want to do. This is extremely awesome.
Excellent. So then there was this, so you became known at your school as someone who was really into this, and then you were invited by one of your teachers, I think, who said, hey, there's a competition, you should enter it. So what were you challenged to do, and what did you end up doing?
So the challenge was to design a habitation module that will go to Mars, and different aspects of it, and you had to explain it in a 2-minute video. And this was the most challenging part because there's so much information to share, and you had to all compress it. And then I ended up focusing on 3 main problems of the many when going to Mars, which was safety, the comfort of the astronauts, and the general food, especially supplies, but especially food, as in fresh food. And that's when it was the MSS, which was the Mars Storage Station, would be a station between Earth and Mars, which would minimize the journey, safety-wise, because they would have a stop, for example, a rest stop or a gas station on a road trip. And they'd also decrease the amount needed for trips, because currently it's $10,000 per pound, and in 25 years, so that's when we're planning to go to Mars, maybe a little bit later, and NASA's planning to decrease it to a few hundred. And that would still be a lot to bring from Earth all the way to Mars and then all the way back. So this station would create you'd only have to have that amount going from Earth to the station, and then there they would replenish it, and then
there'd be a rest stop, is the idea.
Right, a rest stop, and then a crewless cargo ship would go back and forth. And so this would also be a psychological comfort, because it's in total 2 to 3 year journey, and that's a long time for things to go wrong. So that'd be there's an emergency, a space oasis in the middle, so they can go back to it.
And how did you go about? What were your sources when you did this? Was it science fiction? Because the idea of growing stuff into, I think they've got a little bit of lettuce on the space station or something, but a lot of this stuff is still just sci-fi, right?
Right. I took a lot of the inspiration from NASA videos where astronauts made them in the ISS. So for my simulator, which would be a curved surface when exercising, astronauts said that they loved running on Earth, but they miss it because in space, because of microgravity, your bone mineral density decreases and cardiovascular system weakens. So they need to exercise 2 hours per day. And so on a 2.5 year journey, that's a lot of hours, and they find it kind of a burden, and so this would kind of increase it. and that's how I came up with a simulator where they would feel like they're exercising on Earth. They could travel different places, do leisure time activities, or even watch videos from their families, and even train for different parts of the mission even more, because after 2.5 years, they might not feel confident enough in themselves, so they would kind of feel like 100% ready to do this
So
task.
part of your design is a simulator where they've got, VR or something, so they can feel
Right.
like they're running back home.
Yeah, so they would feel like, oh, I really like this like trail.
Yeah.
So they'd be like, okay, I want to run in this trail this time in the fall, for example.
Right.
So
Oh, lovely. No, it's interesting because what you're saying dovetails beautifully with what David said right at the beginning, that doing all of these things is not just a technical challenge; it's a challenge around what humans are capable of and their limitations, psychological and biomedical and so on. And you've taken all of that in, so it's a very inspiring thing. Do you want to go to Mars?
possibly, yeah, I definitely want to be an engineer, an aerospace engineer, to get those first people to Mars. And maybe in the later missions, because the first missions would be just orbiting Mars or like landing briefly. But when it's the actual like colonies, or like not colonies but civilizations on Mars, that'd be something I'd want to do, to kind of see how different plants grow there, the different geological aspects of it.
Yeah. And how do you see the end of the century? Because you'll be around to see the end of the century. Maybe not everyone in this room will be. Who knows what will happen? But what do you imagine the solar system will look like then?
I feel like it's definitely going to be, human exploration is going to go further than even Mars. We're definitely going to be in Mars, or having ideas of what is on Mars and different possible life forms on it. But I think that we're going to get to different, especially moons like Europa on Jupiter, and different bodies in the celestial system, where they will be able to see different things, how life once formed there, if or not, and how mainly our solar system came to be, to kind of base it off of Earth.
Yeah, cool. And are your friends also interested in this kind of thing, or are you an outlier in just how enthusiastic you are? Because you're obviously very enthusiastic about this.
I haven't met a lot of people with my same enthusiasm. I've met 2 boys that were also in the competition, and they share a similar enthusiasm for the whole love for space. But mainly in my school, there isn't someone who I can talk for hours on end. But my parents, a lot of the time, I have conversations with them about it, and teachers as well.
Right, and this is the great thing about when you get to university, you're just surrounded by people who only want to do the same thing and talk about the same thing as you do. We should probably just say what the competition was. Was it Lockheed Martin?
It was Lockheed Martin and Discovery Education,
Yeah.
and it was kind of to push, to kind of get people, especially young adults, thinking about the journey to Mars, because the kids that are in school now will be the astronauts to go to Mars.
That's the first person to walk on Mars has probably been born already.
Right, yeah, so this would kind of be design a habitation module, explain it, and show your ideas, how you know that there's microgravity, how it would affect the life on the pole.
Right, and what was the outcome as a result of winning this? What was the prize, and has it given you access to people and things that you wouldn't have had otherwise?
Yeah, so it was when we went to Washington, D.C. for the final reveal in the U.S. Science and Engineering Festival, and that was an extraordinary experience, because there was a whole NASA section, Lockheed Martin section. It was like engineering paradise. There was a little bit of everything, and so that was an awesome experience. And then it was a trip to the Smithsonian, which was also really awesome. I presented there, and there was a ton of, I love seeing all the space shuttle and all the rockets. And then there was a $10,000 cash prize, and a trip to Cape Canaveral, NASA, which was 2 weeks ago. And we got an off-site tour and a tour of the O&C factory, which was of Orion. So that was extremely cool to see all the engineers working on the Orion capsule.
Excellent, brilliant. Yeah, so there is a 2-minute video out there. Is it on YouTube? I assume it is. So, okay, we should have it. We should tweet it on the event's Twitter, so you can all find it easily. But thank you very much. It's very inspiring. So I don't see how inspired you are, but it's also very inspiring to see it itself. So thank you very much indeed.